The thing runs like a champ, starts up, spins nice when you put 12 volts to a 6-volt starter motor. Let's go take a look. Hey, welcome back to the channel. We had some late model stuff we had to do, but we're back on the classics here, and especially the 50 Chevy. Now, it started, ran, drove into the shop, runs great, brakes still work, clutch still works. Made a little noise after we blew the mouse house out, but we'll see how that goes. Today though, we are thinking electricals. And where is it? I ordered this about 18,000 years or days ago. So as things are, it starts and runs. It does not charge at all, just to bring you up to the speeds. And we'll go through and check some of the lighting and stuff, but this is what we're dealing with. The old cloth wiring. There's about as much bare stuff as there is shielded stuff. Even up into here. Like I said, the generator's not charging, and we have other issues. We got a battery cable here that the cloth is coming off of. We don't have a dome light. So the thing is, we're just gonna upgrade. Now, I haven't disconnected the 6-volt negative ground on the Chevy here yet, because I want to check and see what I think we have some lightage, and then we're going to go up in here and tag some of these posts so that when we build out this new loom, we know what we're looking for. And we're going to replace all that old cloth wiring with, we've got some headlight things there, with this bad ride. I think I got this off of the Flea Bay. It's about a 12 circuit wiring harness, all put together, fuses, turn signal flasher. That might even be a horn relay. I think we can use that for a horn relay. We'll have to look at the constructions, but I think it's supposed to be maybe a fuel pump relay, but we will use it as a horn relay. Things not too complicated. We're talking 1950 here. So we've got power coming off the battery with the big cable. It goes down to the starter lug, and here's where we distribute power. One larger diameter wire goes into the dash, powers the car. One goes into the dash here, powers, I believe, the fan. It's kind of got its dedicated circuit. And we've got one wire that comes back, powers the coil, negative off the coil to the distributor. Now we're going to 12 volt, so we'll get a ballast resistor, and we'll probably ticky-tack that right up on the wall here. That'll cover all the ignition. I mean, there's stuff under the dash. On this side, we have our charging and our lighting loom. So wires come down here. Oh, and the horn. We got a horn relay here. Remember what I said about that relay over there. We'll run the horn through that circuit. We've got our horns up here. Lighting comes up here, distributes to one side across this little brace for the core support, and over to the other side. And then we have wires that come down and attach to our generator. We are going to go with the Wilson 1-wire alternator. So we really only need one big power wire going back and feeding back into the car and getting back to the battery and charging. And then on the insides, we've got some gauges. We've got our heater fan, and this one maybe? I don't know which one controls the heater fan. That's a cigarette lighter. We'll figure it out. But we've got dome light switches. We do have oh my gosh, it's on. Are you kidding me? When did that start working? What do we do? Oh, no, it doesn't go off. I bet it's that switch over there. Looks like it might be working. that one right there. We'll go push that in a second. But then the tail light wiring, I think that's what this stuff is. It actually doesn't go down along the bottom of the threshold here like on the newer cars. They got her running up through here and then back down over there, and there will be a fuel cinder wire in there as well. And then on the back side we've got the usual tail lights. There's our cinder wire, goes down and kicks through right there, and then we've got tail lights again, goes to one side over to the other side. We got a trunk. We got a dang old trunk light in this rig. Huh. Interesting. We might have to see if we can get that rig wired up. Anywho, that's the plan, but this is super cool. What? That's what it is. Look at this. Shit. This switch works. How neat is that, you guys? Now, that 6-volt bulb and all the other 6-volt bulbs in here will not work when we upgrade to 12. So we've got a whole stockpile in the stocks of 12-volt bulbs that should replace pretty much everything we take out of here. We'll get some headlights and whatever else. But we're gonna have to do that. And then as far as the gauges go, I've got a plan, and I haven't seen anybody try it yet, or at least I haven't found that a video or a write-up that anyone has tried it yet. But what we're gonna do is, you know, on the ignition circuits on these cars, once they went to 12 volts and they kept the base ignition system, they went to those ceramic ballast resistors to knock that voltage down so you don't burn out your 6-volt coil. Basically on the early Mopars, the muscle car Mopars, they're basically old 6-volt powered ignition systems, upgraded of course, but they just run the ballast resistor to make them happy. So I believe we can run a ballast resistor in the power circuit to our gauges. That's my plan. And that will keep the gauges from burning up and should still keep things pretty accurate, because they do pretty kind of sort of work. So that's what we're gonna do. I gotta go get some lunch, and then we'll just get right into this when I get back. Things have escalated and things are getting done. You know, this is a simple enough car. I'm not too worried about it. We got a lot of stuff mapped out, and this may not make sense to you all, but these are the two junction blocks at the front of the car. So we figured out what's the horn, what's the high beam, what's the low beam, and what's the park lights on both sides. That's up front there where you saw the wire was chewed up really bad. Now this is a junction block under the dash, and basically what happens is power comes up to the ammeter, goes down to this junction block here, and then ties off to other circuits. So like this first connection here had battery voltage all the time. This second one only had battery voltage during lighting events, and then these 3 wires were tied in to go to the taillights. Key on, we got power here, and that gave voltage then to like the gauges and things. And then we had one for the brake lights and one for the dash lights way over here, because there's courtesy lights all over this guy. There's a courtesy light that peeks out here and lights up the key. There's one for the clock. There's one for the glove box. There's a dome light. There's a trunk light. They're everywhere. I mean, this is a deluxe rig for sure. So anywho, we got that pretty well mapped out, and then we started on the back of the cluster. But when it came down to it, really all we had is an ammeter on this side and a fuel gauge on this side. And we know the fuel gauge was getting voltage from here, key on, and the ammeter brings power in and then ties in, and power goes over to the ignition switch, and then it has power out, and that goes and feeds the car. So the difference between what's coming in and what's going out is how the needle moves. It's either, if there's more going out, then it's discharge. If there's more coming in than going out, then it's charge. But you want pure power when you hit the ignition switch. You don't want to have to go through the ammeter and all the other stuff. So there's a tie on the inside that goes over here to the push button ignition switch. And then, speaking of the ignition switch, this is the key switch. Mind you, we have a push button, starter switch. So the key switch doesn't do a lot. It's got battery voltage coming in down here, and then it's got 2 wires coming off when the key power's on. One goes into the loom and probably up into here somewhere. The other one goes and powers the coil. And then at the same time, it's got a dedicated wire that runs over straight to the heater switch, which I took out and I left the wires attached so I don't have to map it. This guy over here is a very crude mapping of this. Is the headlight switch, and it does come out of the dash. Look how long we've been using this trick with the plunger. Comes out the end and then screws through the dash. This doesn't look to be in too bad a shape, but obviously there's more than 5 places to connect here. So when we go back together, I don't think it's going to be a problem, because we're going to simplify a lot of these circuits, but it's not, I didn't get it mapped out quite 100% though. Anywho, that's the mapping under the dash. And then we have, for the sake of other terminology, we've started disconnecting. And here's our loom that goes back to the back of the car. No big deal. This big tape loom here runs out to the front. That's our charging and headlight lighting circuitry. And then this loom that comes in right here is battery voltage in, and then one is I think one's battery voltage out. This is the wire that came off the ignition switch that goes back out and powers the coil. We're not going to use any of these. This one's ready to rip out. I'm going to go ahead, since we're all disconnected, we're just going to snip this loom right about here, pull that in through the firewall, and then we'll get the Medusa part out from the inside. 2 days later, alert, and we've made progress, or at least by progress I mean we just ripped all the wiring out of the car. I tried to keep notes. You kind of watched that, and I kind of walked you through that, but we are no wires here. We've got little pigtails for the horns still on those, because we're not sure if, number one, if they're going to work with the 12 volts, and number two, I really kind of doubt we'll be able to dissect them and put new pigtails in. We might have to do, these are double clothed. Anyway, they're not horrible, and for the little bit that they're going to be used, we're going to leave those pigtails for now. The inside is completely gutted of wiring, minus the wire to the cigarette lighter. I could not get it off the back of the cigarette lighter, so we'll get to that when we get to it. Now, we had wires going to the back of the car up through the A pillar here, and hindsight being perfectly great, I should have pulled it back and forth a couple times and tried to loosen up. There's probably some mouse stuff crammed down in there, but I just tried to yank it back in one fell swoop, and it's stuck forever. So it's got snipped here and snipped here, and then we pulled everything out all the way to the back. And I think when we go back in, what we're gonna do, we got our little sill plate kind of where it's gonna live eventually, and we're gonna come right along here like in the later model cars, and we'll put a little protective sheathing or something over the loom that goes back, for tail, brake lights, and fuel sender. Oh, and dome light. Dome light's gonna come right up here and go back in here. So all the wires are out. Now, I got to looking and scratching my head, and now we bought this kit. This it's a 14 circuit fuse kit. It's one of the, you know, Chinesium, whatever you want to call it, off of the flea bay. It ain't all bad. It's got this goofy plastic loom. We aren't going to use that. Some zip ties. We aren't going to use their cheap connectors. We do have a black ground wire in here, and we've got pigtails for the headlights, and we also have an alternator pigtail, but we're going to put a 1 wire in, so we don't need that. But the bottom line is, in the advertisement, I went back and read the listing, and I should have known, because when I read it a little more closely, there are misspellings and bad language as far as the English language goes. Not naughty language, bad language, but poorly written description. And that should have been clue number 1 had I actually cared to read a little closer. But it says in said advertisement description that this kit right here is everything you need to rewire your classic car, hot rod, whatever project, bumper to bumper. Not even close. So what we have figured out is we can complete some circuits. Like we've got a horn relay and horn, that's pretty much there. What else? The power to the coil has its own little fuse, so that's kind of cool. That circuit's pretty much there and complete. Now, basically what this loom is going to do is it's going to get you power to the switches, most of them, and then like for lights, there's no secondary loom we're gonna have to build. We can get power to the light switch, but there's no wires included in this that'll get you power from your switch to the tail lights or to the headlights. There are no wires that will there's a wire that'll get you power to your brake switch. There's no wire that'll get you power from your brake switch to your brake lights. There's power that'll get you, I don't even think we have a dome light circuit at all. I guess what I'm saying is, I'm going to be building some secondary wire looms, and that's okay. We're still okay budget-wise. That kind of brings things into full, focus as to why some of the high-end kits are hundreds of dollars. So what we did is I went to the greatest place on earth yesterday, picked up a bunch of different colors of 16 gauge wire and a bunch of these connectors. Now these are the run-of-the-mill crimp connectors, but we're going to, when we use them, we're going to take the little plastic sheathing off, and then we'll use heat shrink and do it the right way. And then this morning I went to the Napa Valley and got some red 10 gauge wire, and in here is a dimmer switch, like a GM style, and a pigtail for, it's the same style foot clicky dimmer switch. However, on the 50 I noticed, and those are a couple more wires that we haven't taken out yet, but on here the 50 brings wire out of the bulkhead here, and then you've got the dimmer switch wires go actually underneath the car and connect in the elements to the bottom of the switch below the floor. But what we're going to do, since we've already decided, we're going to come down here with our wires going to the back. We're going to include our lighting circuits coming down the A pillar here, and we'll put a later style dimmer switch right about in the same spot, but our wires will be inside the car, and we'll have that little pigtail, that little 3-wire pigtail connected here. That's the plan. The third thing I did is found the wiring diagrams for this car on the interweb. So I got those printed off over here on the bench. And so how we're going to do this, I thought maybe this was going to be one of them kind of lay it out and connect things. In a perfect world, that would happen. But more than likely, we're going to go ahead and mount our fuse panel. We figured out, you know, these 4 wires here are going to power 4 different areas of this panel. Okay, let's get you up to the speeds. We are making progress. We basically have start, ignition done. We've got some wires. We got the wire hooked up, ready to go back to the fuel sender. I'll show you that here in a second. We're getting ready to hook up the fan switch for the blower motor. But most of the stuff we did is under the hood. We have our starter circuit because we have a push button starter on this rig that is not part of the key switch. So we've got that hooked up. We've got our coil hooked up. We've got our ballast resistor installed, in line and hooked up. New negative coil wire to the distributor. These are just kind of snug. They're a little loose. And then we just got back from Irish with a new positive battery cable. Over here we've got our horn wire ran to where we're going to tie into these distribution blocks, and then we'll build a little loom going over here. And then this other big red wire is going to go down to our single wire alternator. I don't have it terminated yet to length because we still have to build this loom from the light switch. So we bench tested the light switch, and I have no idea where it's at right now. We made sure all the circuits work except for the rheostat for the dimmer. It is broken somewhere in the rheostat. It's not getting any power through it, so the dash lights will not dim. However, there is, gosh darn it, where is this darn thing? Here it is. Okay, so here is the dash light switch, and power comes in here. It's also in the old wiring system. It's also a power distribution block. The brake light switch got power from this. The dome light, I think, got power from this. Basically, power hooked up here. All these were linked together, plus these 2 up here, and they were used for various different circuits in the old system. So we put power to here, and with the switch 1 notch out, we've got power here and power here. With the switch all the way out the headlights, we've got power here and power here. So this is the common, and then it has this tie that goes to the rheostat. The rheostat is this spring that creates a resistance, and depending on where that little foot is on that spring depends on how much resistance there is and how dim or bright your dash lights are. Well, I believe that spring is broken right at the start here, so it's just a dead circuit. So what we're going to do, this one has power for park lights and headlights, because in the 1950s, earlies and earliers, on the front of the car, first notch on the headlight switch is sometimes only the park lights. Second notch is only the headlights. The 2 aren't on together. However, on the back of the car, you got to have the tail lights for both of those circumstances. So that's where, that's my diagram. This is park, this is tail, and this is headlights. And that is why we pull power from the tail light circuit through the rheostat to manage our dash lights, so they're on with headlights and park lights. What we're going to do, instead of using the rheostat, because this lug is where we would normally tie to, we're going to tie right here, and the dash lights will just be on full brightness all the time. Not going to hurt anything. It's not going to hurt the bulbs. And this car certainly isn't going to be taking 100-mile trips down the highway in the night times. So it's not going to be a big deal at all. That's how we're doing that. The other switch we had to sort out, this is the fan switch for the blower motor. And I thought we had like a 3-speed switch where we had full power, and this was a resistor type situation, and this was. But this was caked with dirt. It's actually a fuse. It was blown. So now this switch appears to be working correctly. We're going to wire that up to the AC fuse in the car. We don't have just a heater fan, but we do have a AC circuit that we're not going to use for anything else. So the AC circuit will power this switch, and then power out of this switch will go to the blower motor. Otherwise, we talked about the ammeter gauge, all that's pretty much ready to roll under there, just hand tight connections so we don't lose track of what's done and what isn't done. For the fuel sender, what we did is there is a circuit in the new fuse panel for fuel pump, and it's a switch circuit and it has its own wire. So we took it up under here, and I think, did I just show you this? But there's a ballast resistor right up here, and we've got it one side wired, and then when we build our lighting loom to the back, we will include the rest of the fuel sending unit circuit, and it'll come off the other side of that ballast resistor. This should be getting it about 6, 7, 8 volts, and from here we'll go up to the gauge, and then from the gauge down through the wire loom to the back of the cars. And life, I think, will be pretty good there. So all the big circuits, heavy duty circuits, are done. We're going to put together some secondary looms to get power to the lights. Dome light, we'll figure that all out. We've got one switch we got to investigate on for that, but we're in pretty good shape. I'm pretty pleased with what's going on so far. The eBay harness is going to be pretty helpful. It's just not enough wire to get us bumper to bumper. It's another next day alert. We've been jumping back and forth. The Jeep is all back together, ready to roll. We're pretty sure. We're still on electricals. We did this tail light, and I don't have any befores. These tail lights were rusted beyond belief. We ended up, we couldn't save them. Tried to kind of do some repairing, but it wasn't going to happen. But what we did find to fix our problem was we have the Dorman 85803. You can get these at the Irish or the Napa Valley or whatever, but it's this little 1157 bulb holder, and then it has these little fingers around it. So you basically, we wallered out the hole for the old socket that we popped out of here, wallered it out to about 7/8. You stick this in, and then you press down. We used a punch and press those fingers down, and it's, I mean, it's solid and but yet serviceable, and then you put your bulb in there. So that's how we fixed that. This has been sandblasted. This was completely rusty. In fact, you can see right here that those aren't drilled holes, those are rust holes. So we've already done the passenger side. We're going to drop this in the driver's side. We're going to hook up our lighting back here, and we got to do some dome light work, and then we're pretty close to starting some testing with some actual 12 voltages. Well, let's get you updated. We're believe it or not, we're up and running on the 50. Now we've got some tidying up to do. I wanted, you know, keep everything out in the open, separated, so as if you need to, you can troubleshoot stuff. Everything's happy here. We've got our ballast resistor. The thing runs like a champ, starts up, spins nice when you put 12 volts to a 6-volt starter motor. The only thing we don't have connected in the engine bay is our one wire that's going to go to our alternator, so we're going to do that in this segment. And then the other thing I want to check before we get too far, we've got dome lightage. That switch that's actually part of the dome light fixture, I could not get it revived. So what we did is we put just a little bitty toggle right down here. And otherwise, that's all done. We haven't checked the blower motor. I'm pretty sure we're gonna have to get a 12-volt blower motor, but we'll see if it'll even spin. We haven't gotten the horn to work yet. The relay is working, but we didn't have a big battery in the car when I was fiddling with the horn, so we've got a ground wire. In fact, we did realize we have to have, with this particular fuse block, we got to have the key on for power to get to the horn relay. It's sending power to the horns. You hear that clicking? We got no hornage. That's okay. Now we'll leave the key on. And here, you know, I did a little bit of, I guess, guesstimating, trials and errors, and anyway, for the fuel gauge. Here's our fuel sender wire now, and we've got a ground up here. Can we get this in one shot? Here, we'll just do it this way. What do we got here? Oh, looky there. 5.4 volts. I'm calling that perfect, guys and gals. So that's so far confirmed. We'll get it hooked up and see what it reads. But if you're doing a 12 volt, 6 volt, no, if you're doing a 6 volt to 12 volt conversion, and you got a couple of gauges or a couple little incidentals that you want to leave in the 6 volt realm of how they work, put a ballast resistor in line. I'm gonna hook this up quick and we'll see what the gauge looks like in the dash. Here is the diagrams. 12 volts. This is the ballast resistor into one side, out the other side, then to the gauge, and out of the gauge to the sender, and then the sender grounds to the chassis. This is, take a snapshots. That's your wiring diagram in a nutshell. We got her hooked up. Let's turn the key on now. I think, if I remember right, when we put the tank and sender in this car, I put maybe 2, 3, 4 gallons, something like that in it. It certainly shouldn't say full, and it certainly shouldn't say empty. But here we go. We're watching this guy here. Turn the key on. See that? It just jumped up to like 1/8 of a tank. Almost a quarter. Perfect. And then we also, just for giggles, there's our ammeter. Put power to the system and it drops to a discharge state a little bit. Nice. It's working. So I'm pretty pleased with that. The last big thing, we're gonna leave things kind of loose and hangly dangly in here. We did tidy up the fuel sender wire and the loom to the brake lights and park lights in the back. But the last thing, we're gonna knock this generator out of here and put our 1-wire alternator in. We might have to do some bracketries and fabrications. And yeah, this project, part of the project, will be done. Alternator update. It's not going too bad at all. We got a nice belt alignment here. Let me push this in now. I think I did this on the International. I don't think I did a vidya on it, but this is where this ear, see how wide it is? This is where you would normally mount the alternator, and then this ear that's narrower is usually where your little arm here goes and you adjustamolate it. But I've run into this twice on classic cars where we ain't gonna get it. This is right in the middle of where it needs to be to locate this alternator. So we're gonna use this as the bottom mounting point, and that's okay to do. But if you do that, you got to make sure that you have some sort of a back brace system. So let me take both hands and we're going to put this belt back on here. Same belt, by the way. That's handy as heck. and then we'll just run a through bolt to adjustimate here. And then I found this bracketry and some scrap steel, and we'll be able to bend on it just a little bit. And then we'll do, I got to measure this, we'll do another spacer here, and then there's a metric. This is a stud, because I was finding the correct location for this hole. But we'll get a spacer in here. We'll probably have to run into towns and get a longer metric bolt and put a through bolt here. We'll get this belt snugged up. It's pretty close now, and then we can adjustimate this just enough, and that'll give us some support on the back side of this alternator here. Okay, I think we got her. I'm happy with it anyway. We got our little spacer here. We got this is tight. We got the bracketry down to the old bracketry tight. Tighten our bottom bolt. Belt lines up really, really well. We might be a 1/16 off. One thing I forgot to mention was this adjuster arm was bent this way and landed right like here. We just straightened her out and bent it out that way a little bit so it fits better. Let's jump in here. Battery's connected. We'll check the gauge, see what it looks like when it starts, and then we'll come out and do voltages at the battery. Okay, should be in neutral. We still have gauges. I'll put you guys there for now. Might need a pump or two. Oh yeah, she's showing a strong charge. She's way over in the C, but I think that's okay, you guys. Let's throw some lights at it. See, it drops down a little bit. So everything's working all right. We're just pumping more amps than the generator. Gas gauge looks good still. Let's check voltages at the battery. I think we're going to be in good place. Perfect. I'll show you something here in a second. Let's check this again now that we're at a warm idle, or slow idle anyway. We're still 12.8. Want to give it a little bit of RPM, make sure we're moving around a little bit. I got the meter right in my way, my own way, not your. I mean, you guys are good. Here we go. Come around this side of you. Yeah, 13.3. So we're charging good. Now let's go look at the gauge. We're at a slightly, well, quite a bit slower speed here. We're not on fast idle, and look, it came down. It's working great, you guys. That's pretty outstanding. Hey, I'm super happy. The only thing we do not have working are the horns. And we'll fiddle with those a little bit more. They're probably just dead, but we'll mess with those a little bit more. I'm gonna clean this up, and then I'll kind of give you an overall view in the outro. Appreciate each and every one of you for watching our stuff. I know our video count's kind of going up and down. Sometimes I gotta work. I work and I do videos when I'm not working. So when work piles up, you gotta get after it. Anyway, appreciate you. We'll catch you on the next one.